Boom, everybody. Welcome to a very special evening with, we have Alexandra Boyd. And if you are not familiar with that name, you might be familiar with the movie that is, I think, one of her proudest accomplishments. I mean, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the history. We're going to get into all the new things. But I'm sure that this thing right here, Titanic, holds a very special place in her heart, as it does many, many people. And she is in this film. She is famous for saying, if you blink, you'll miss it. But that's neither here nor there. She spent a lot of time on the set of James Cameron's Titanic. And I actually found out about her through who was previously on Brittany from James Cameron's Titanic Scene by Scene podcast. We did an evening with Brittany. And shortly thereafter, she released an episode with Alexandra. And then that's how I was introduced. And I was like, man, it would be really cool to just kind of continue the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the film. And of course, to really help spread the word as much as possible about Alexandra's new documentary, which is called Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries. And of course, her new podcast as well, Titanic Talk. All of this, by the way, in case any of you are curious, it's all linked down below in the description. So you can click all those links. I think I even put the link to the Titanic Historical Society, which is really cool. I never heard of it. I checked it out for the first time and went over to like the museum store and picked up a couple knickknacks, and it's really cool. So definitely check it out if you're as obsessed either with the actual ship, with the film, or both. And it's a lot of fun. So yeah, without further ado, I'm not going to chit chat because we have to bring her in. We went through a bunch of technical things. It was very funny, but we figured everything out. So we are ready to rock and roll. We're going to give her, of course, the drum roll. I believe that's the drum roll. Yes, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Alexandra Boyd.
Oh gosh, yes.
And of course, wait, let me fix it. There we go.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And what a lovely introduction. Yes, 25 years has been a long time. And I have to emphasize, I haven't lived and breathed Titanic for that entire 25 years. Life does go on. But yes, because it's the 25-year anniversary of the film, it's also the 25-year anniversary of retrieving the big piece from the wreck. I don't know if you know that. That's on display at the Luxor exhibition in Las Vegas. Okay. And actually, I'm going to my first Titanic Con in August to sign autographs. If you're anywhere close or if you're anywhere inclined, there'll be me and quite a lot of the other actors signing photographs, taking selfies. There'll be people from the original expedition that found Titanic, Robert Ballard's exhibition. And so we all joked when we were doing Titanic, especially after it was so successful, oh, we'll get invited like all the Trekkies and the Star Wars people. A lot of actors I know have played smaller parts than mine in Titanic because there's lots of stormtroopers and characters in the bar and Star Trek characters, and they make quite a good living and keep quite busy traveling around the world doing these conventions. And I'm really excited to actually meet in person the people who are so in love with Titanic, the movie, and of course the historical story, because most of it, just like you and me meeting, or Brittany and Ethan and I meeting, is all through Instagram.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And also the super fans in my documentary, I know them through Instagram. Yep. That's the power and the beauty of that side of the internet, for sure.
That is the beauty and the power of technology, but the power of technology when it comes to these things,
it nearly killed us. Yeah.
I wish I honestly, you know what, I contemplated just hitting go live when we were doing that because it was kind of funny anyway.
Yeah,
but just back and forth. I can't hear you now. I hear an echo. Now I hear an echo.
Yeah. And let me tell you, I came to filmmaking very late in my life. mostly, well, there are several reasons and we can go into them, but mostly because I feared the technology. I was absolutely convinced that because I'm not a technical person at all, that it would just confound me at every, that I had to know about f-stops on cameras and how every, now the camera technology, it evolves so quickly that I couldn't keep up, and whatever I learned 10 years ago would be completely redundant now.
Yes.
But what I've learned you do is you hire or gather around you people who have this passion for the camera or passion for sound design, or and you hire those people, and then the only thing you have to think about, it's not the only thing, but the main thing, the main thread that you are carrying in as a director is the story. And that's been a great relief over the last 10 years to not to have to worry about the technical things. You can see I have a like a passing knowledge, but I can't fix things. I have a very, very wonderful editor, grader, VFX guy, sound guy, camera guy called Mike Mishko, and he edited Widow's Walk, which was my first feature film, and he edited Ship of Dreams as well. So you build relationships with people who are like, you're not going anywhere. Next time I do something, you better be free, And of course, the more you work together, the more work they get, and they become harder to pin down. But
Yeah.
that's one of those fantastic relationships where I'll even WhatsApp him at 4 a.m. going, oh, something's crashed. What do I need? What can I do? And he will be very kind and patient and answer for me.
And he wasn't the one who was walking in the background?
No, that's my partner, Drew. No, his skills are very different indeed. He's a builder. He's an amazing builder. We're living in 6 acres of forest on the Olympic Peninsula, which is beautiful. You can see that is not a Zoom background. That is a real forest.
Here, I'm just going to make you full screen for a second so we can
Yeah,
see it
it's
all.
a real
Look at that.
forest with real trees, and
Oh.
I'm sitting in a vintage Airstream, a little vintage, not which this represents, which we have renovated, and we go on little trips in it. But where it's situated right now, we are building a house. We'll move the Airstream and we want to build a house. There's a gulch that goes all the way around here. It's very, so, again, Drew, because of technology, because of being able to interact with people like you and I are interacting now, we're meeting. We're not physically in the same room, but we can have a real conversation. And that's how I've been able to make a film over the end of lockdown and up until now. It took about 18 months. And really, I only had to go to Los Angeles, London, and New York to do my interviews. And as you can see, when you watch the film, a number of the interviews are on Zoom, and we just decided, I can't fly to Australia or Durban, South Africa. We'll do what we can, and people don't even mention, oh, did you kind of get cheap and do a Zoom? Well, we are super low budget independent movie, but it was a fantastic way to sort of express how we're all communicating now between Instagram and Zoom and this kind of live stream and so forth.
Well, what's beautiful segue, by the way, because what I was one of the things that struck me about it when I was watching it was knowing that, okay, it might not be the $200 million James Cameron budget, right? But what I loved about it was it wasn't just this. It was you actually combined, like you would cut to a professional camera, almost as if the person you were interviewing had set up a professional, and I assume that's how that worked. They set up a camera, right?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
We hired a crew in Durban, and Ilka, who makes the beautiful reproductions of Kate Winslet's costumes, her husband turned out to be very handy with an iPhone. You can shoot on 4K in an iPhone now, and it's I can't tell the difference. So I know most of my audience can't. And like you said, there's such a mixture of ways of that we've filmed it that it doesn't look homespun, but it does have that feeling of, yeah, these people are all over the world.
Yeah. Yep. It was seamless that way, which I really enjoyed watching, because I am kind of like, I just love learning about that stuff and figuring out how the stuff is cut together. and it was great just to just watch it. Seriously, we're gonna get to some of the comments that have been popping up here, but everybody, I implore you, even if you're just an average fan of the movie, but I do think that this particular documentary really you have to kind of, I would assume, really enjoy James Cameron's Titanic, right? Because that's the whole crux of it. I mean, there is also your co-host of the podcast, Nelson. He's one of the people you interview, and he kind of comes at it from a different point of view because he's more interested in the actual ship itself. So even if you're not a super big fan of the James Cameron film, you can still enjoy the documentary from the historical aspect because there are elements of that sprinkled in throughout. But the majority of it are the extras, the smaller roles of the films, and they all came together. And somehow, and this is one of the questions that I have for you, and I'm actually going to pop that up. I don't mean to be all over the place here, but really quickly, because this struck me when I was watching it. I was just thinking to myself, like, what are the odds that every single cast member wrote a diary on this set?
That's a great question. Why did so many cast members write diaries? Because I asked them to. What happened was, a couple of people had kept diaries. I think Rebecca has. She's reading from her diary. Amy Guyper did. You can tell they're in real time.
Okay.
As in, I got in from set and I was wired and I was kind of buzzing. So I wrote down about my day. And that was sort of what started it. And then because we all were quite a tight group of actors, because as we mentioned more than once, there was margarita drinking in the bar many times over the weeks and months. So you got to know people very well. Then it won all the Oscars. It won 11 Oscars in 1998. And we were like, we should all, those of us that are gathered here, or as many people as phone numbers I still had, because remember there was no email or Facebook or anything. You had to phone people on a phone. And I gathered, somebody else had the idea to do it, but I was the person that organized everybody. And they would come over to my house and they would read bits of their diary. And it was like homework. I was like the English teacher saying, hand in your essay. And I made a deadline. So I had these 29 diaries, 29, which is a lot. And we went out looking for a publicist, because you couldn't self-publish anything in 1998. There was no internet, no platform like Blurb or whatever, which actually is what I'm going to do now after we've, launched the film and got a little bit more settled with everything. The 9 actors that are in my movie, we're all going to publish, because you really only hear a tiny bit of the diaries because it's a 90-minute film. You get little snippets of everything. Yep. So I want to publish the entire set of diaries, and maybe some actors who aren't in my film, but would be okay with us publishing their diaries. So nothing happened. They passed on us. It's Los Angeles, so anything that's like 3 months old they're over it. They're on to the next thing, and that was that. And I moved back to London. I started a film career about 10 years ago, starting making short films. Life goes on, as I said. And then I saw the 25-year anniversary coming around. And 2 producers I'm working with on other projects, I said, look, can I just sit my friends down and have them read their diaries? Because I think they haven't seen these diaries in the time either. They didn't keep them, or if they did, they certainly haven't been poring over them this whole time. And so that's what we did. And in combination with the fans who've befriended me on Instagram and are quite extraordinary artists, like the impetus for their art and their creativity is completely drawn from this film and from being moved by this film from a very early age. And that was very moving to me and very interesting. Like, what is your story? Tell me your story about why. And then the bigger question of the film is why this film? And I still haven't really answered it, other than the mastery of James Cameron. And there are still some leaky bits to use a pun. There are still some very leaky bits in the script, and some of the CGI looks very dated. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. People sit through this film. You get, brought along by the story and by the sheer exquisite visual storytelling that Titanic does. The sound design and everything is just incredible. And they don't make films like that anymore. They don't,
No.
and they won't, and they won't.
And they won't. Nope. Beautiful answers. So that's how it's going to work. We're just going to kind of sprinkle in pre-written questions from.
And I might go off on tangents, but
yes,
feel free to bring me back because lots of things come up.
Oh wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. I don't know if do you hear the.
Oh, I heard
Hold on one second.
Oh, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone?
Was that like an alien coming over?
Oh!
Nelson!
Uh-oh.
Brittany, is this a surprise?
Nelson's here, but Nelson doesn't hear anything.
Oh, no.
We can't hear you either, no.
Nelson, say something. He can't hear it.
Uh-oh.
He totally surprised me with you. Did you know I was going to be here?
But this goes to the technology that we were talking about earlier. It's nothing works seamless. Nothing ever works seamless.
Zoom. He says, "Can we go on a Zoom?" No, I don't think switching to a Zoom.
No. You're on your phone, Nelson, right?
He is, yeah, he will be on it. Oh, he's trying something. He's trying something that we use in our podcast because he's a professional and he's got one of those things that actually is molded to his ears. Put your ear thing in. Put your ear thing in. Look.
Put your ear thing in.
He doesn't have it, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know why, because we can hear Brittany and Brittany can hear us.
Yes.
Oh, you can. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, Brittany, I have been loving you. I'll redial.
I'll redial. Okay.
Brittany, I've been loving your new podcasts with all the visuals. Like, you've gone from just breaking every scene down to finding all of this in-depth, I think I commented on your last one. You're creating this PhD of an analysis of a movie. You should be signing up. You should get into a program and say, look, this is what I've done already, and then I'm going to keep going. Now give me a PhD in Titanic.
I know, I was going to say, if James Cameron's Titanic were a major, I'm sure that would have been my major in college.
I don't know why it isn't. I don't know. I feel like every film I make is equivalent to a degree in the subject matter. I think when you do a dissertation, it has to be so many words, right? Oh, Nelson.
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. I just needed to simply redial. Pardon me if I interrupt. I don't want to interrupt here. Hell, I'll never use these again.
Oh, I wouldn't be so sure if I were you, love.
I just felt like, we needed more Zoom time together. And hello, Titanic scene by scene. And nice to meet you, Eddie.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
And I was like, why isn't Nelson here?
We're like the Brady kids without two of them.
I know.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So when I was assembling this, I reached out to Nelson and Brittany, and I was like, do you just want to pop on? I mean, you can stay as long as you want. You can leave whenever you want. I just thought it would be really fun to just, surprise you.
It's lovely. I'm so
it's like, this is your life.
Surprises, but I'm surprised that I am so loving this. I think it's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And Nelson, it's first of all lovely to meet you, because I have been binging the YouTube episodes of the podcast. So I've gotten to kind of know you, and then of course, obviously, watching the documentary was a great way to be introduced to you. And obviously Brittany, I'm very familiar with, but it's such a neat, like, I did not know how far and wide this this fandom was, and more specifically for what Nelson's really interested in, which is the actual wreck of the Titanic, not just the film.
I've been attracted to wrecks my whole life, hence my 30-year friendship with Alexandra. But that's another story for another time. I heard you. I was watching on YouTube before I tried to log on, and I heard you say that about. Yes, I've been a Titanic enthusiast long before the film, which, if you've seen the documentary, explains how Alexandra, how we worked together to help create her audition for the film, but watch the documentary for that full story. But I did see Titanic in the theater 8 times. So I am definitely a fan of the film as well. So I do want to say that. But yeah, it's a remarkable thing to now seeing Brittany again. I moderated a panel after our press screening of the documentary and chatted with Brittany then. And it's fascinating to me, this family of fanatics that we are building. It existed all along, but it keeps growing and it keeps expanding. And every day I was talking to the former foreign minister of Australia, talking about Titanic, he's like, oh, I've got a Titanic story. Everybody on the planet has a Titanic story. And I will just say, we call it ourselves Titaniacs, riffing on the word fanatic. But I've always said that fan is just short for fanatic, and it's okay to be fanatical about something. And we and everybody watching and everybody that will watch after this, when it's no longer live, are part of that extended family, guys.
Yes. And I don't want to spoil it, because I definitely want people to go to the website shipofdreams.com, right?
Film.
Shipofdreamsfilm.com.
Ship of Dreams Film. It is in the description, in case anyone just click it, takes you right over. I don't think it gets rid of the live, and rent it. And Nelson has quite a neat theory that he is. I see him reacting, given the rolling eyes. I found it amazing, and I'm all about reincarnation. I'm all about past lives. I'm all about that stuff. So I was like, that is really fascinating. That's actually,
we've been quite surprised how many people also think they're reincarnations of people on the Titanic, but it's usually the big numbers, Molly Brown or
Why do you always have to be? Oh yeah, I was Cleopatra in a past life. Maybe you weren't Cleopatra. Maybe you just helped build the pyramid.
You just helped build the pyramid.
Yeah, how many Cleopatras were there?
Yeah, right. And Brittany, do you believe you're, because I don't think I've ever, I never asked you during our evening with, but do you feel like you're a past life brought back?
I've actually never thought about it. I really haven't.
You're a new life. You're a new soul.
Yeah. I wonder if I had, if I dive more into the stories of passengers, maybe, who knows, maybe there will be one that I come across that I'm like, hey.
She's so gorgeous. I want to be her in my next life.
Your voice, you were born to do voiceover. I know you're an incredible singer as well, an incredibly accomplished recording artist and performer as well. We must point that out, that like I said, we're all being drawn like a magnet to Titanic this year because of the anniversary and so forth, but we all do have very busy other lives as well. We're sort of juggling everything, but somehow it keeps coming back to that ship.
Always.
Yeah. Always. It always comes back to it. Since I have everybody here, I do want to ask, I know the answer from Brittany, but did Nelson or Alexandria, did you go to the re-release?
I did. Yeah, I went for nostalgia's sake. But I have to say, I can't get on with that blimmin' 3D. It just drives me crazy, because I have big, regular glasses, but they're big frames. So the 3D things sort of have to go over the top. Yes. And then the outside of my vision is all blurred. And so I'm really only going to spot my friends, and it's amazing. I have not seen it 8 times in the cinema, I will confess, but it's amazing how the script stays with you, and I can anticipate a line, because it's one that pops out. So I actually had fun on a Wednesday afternoon to my local cinema and watching it, and sort of watching other people trying to work out why they might be here. There were sort of family groups, not with children, but sort of people in their 30s and 40s, all just sort of just enjoying the film, because I think it brings back memories of people's youth as well to be able to see it in the cinema. And I do also know that it's still screening in China. Don't be bitter. And to date, its box office is going north of $70 million, and it's still playing in China.
Yeah, for this re-release. Yeah.
Yes,
I saw that.
Yeah, the re-release in 2012, the 3D 2K, because we're now at 4K, because of course you can totally tell the difference. That made $450 million by the time they had done its rounds. God. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
And Nelson?
I did not go to the re-release. One of the things COVID has propelled in my life, we were moving into a new home when COVID hit and slowed everything down, and we pivoted. And actually, I wrote a book about how to pivot during the pandemic. And one of the things we did was build a screening room here. So if I want to watch Titanic, I can just watch it right here and have the full-on experience right here.
Awesome.
But as Alexandra said, to have the shared experience, to see everybody else in the theater, and that's the magic of going to a theater. Now we all stream everything, but to go to a theater and have that shared experience is something you can't replicate, no matter how great your screening room may be. And my favorite film of all time, we've discussed this on other outlets, is The Poseidon Adventure. Before I made my connection to Titanic, I was a Poseidon Adventure aficionado, and ended up becoming close friends with Carol Lindley, who famously sang The Morning After. She was the terrified pop singer in The Poseidon Adventure, and she and I became lifelong friends. And this was also before the internet. There was the cult of The Poseidon Adventure, where there were screenings and it's kind of like Rocky Horror-esque screenings of The Poseidon Adventure, where people would dress up in character and recite the lines as they were happening. And I would go with Carol Lindley and Stella Stevens and Roddy McDowall. Sometimes Ernie Borgnine came along, and we must have seen Poseidon Adventure in screening rooms 50 times over the years. And
you see it in Niagara Falls at the Niagara.
We did. Alexandra accompanied me to Niagara Falls
Disaster Movie Film Festival
30 years ago for one of those adventures. And it is a phenomenon. And I'm not discounting the fact that Titanic may end up the same way, that the Titanic may end up being something where people, like a Titanic Con in Vegas that Alexandra mentioned earlier, people will go in costume or shouting out the lines, and it becomes its own creation. It's bigger than the actual historical event, which is important not to forget. I mean, that's the thing that Alexandra manages in the documentary to keep alive. It's not just a wonderful piece of entertainment. On an upcoming episode of Titanic Talk, I've got my playbill here, we talked to some of the creative forces behind the off-Broadway phenomenon of Titanic, which is hilarious and wonderful. And it's all because of the magic of James Cameron's movie. But there is this shift. I mean, this historical event that changed the world. It was the end of the Edwardian era. It was the beginning of World War I, and the world was forever changed after the Titanic tragedy. And I think that's important to, if not, we don't need to get weighed down with constant reverence, but it's important not to forget that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes there's a disconnect between people who really don't like the film. They feel very, very strongly that the Jack and Rose story is an abomination and it never should have happened. It should have basically been a remake of A Night to Remember, which is a very faithful very faithful film to the actual story based on people's memories. Do you want to say something, Eddie?
Well, I was just going to say really quickly, the funny thing is I remember watching the documentary and you speaking highly of A Night to Remember. After we watched the theater screening of the re-release, I was like, I have to see this movie. I've never seen A Night to Remember. I love Titanic. I have to watch it. Watched it. I applaud it for its production value and everything. I came away from that going, to me personally, A Night to Remember is almost... because it just starts. It literally, the movie starts and it hits the iceberg. And
so you don't get to know anybody.
There's no chance to get to know a single person on that boat, like before the tragedy happens. And I was like, I need that because I'm so used to the hour and a half leading up to it. To, you know, like I needed that. And all of a sudden the movie starts, they hit the iceberg, it sinks, it's over. And I'm like, wait, like,
well,
so it almost felt exploitative.
People wrote their accounts. They wrote the survivors wrote their personal accounts based on what they remember from when the iceberg hit. Prior to that, to them, probably wasn't important at all, story-wise. Like, and then the iceberg hit, and we were scrapping for the life.
Eddie obviously likes to be romanced a little. He likes to go out to dinner. You know, he likes a little foreplay, I think.
Apparently, so do millions and millions of other people. So, sort of going back to this. This deep dislike that many people, the historians, I go to Facebook group pages where they're like, don't you dare mention anything about the film or fictional characters, or, you'll be drummed out of the group if you try. And I'm like, okay, not a problem. I'm going over here. Don't take any notes of me. And what I feel very sincerely they're missing is that James Cameron's film introduced this story that they're so passionate about historically and truthfully, introduced an entire generation of people to this historical event. Apparently the memberships for Titanic societies went up 1,000-fold in 1997, 98. People were like, I was swept along by Jack and Rose, and the young woman in my film, she goes, and then I realized it was a true story. It doesn't matter what order it comes to you in. What you cannot get away from is learning that 1,500 people lost their lives in the most horrific manner. And I listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm very passionate about the things I love and know. I just think they're being disingenuous when their feelings are it was rather rude of James Cameron to do it, and I think it was rather clever and actually his love letter to the ship.
Yeah. There's no bigger fan of the Titanic story than James Cameron. Obviously, I mean, at his own considerable expense, reputation, peril, when you consider the dives that he made. He cared very much about telling the story, granted with a fictional soap opera thrown in, but nonetheless with care and devotion. And I'm just going to take this moment. Eddie knew that I do have a time delay on me, so I'm going to leave you beautiful people and send you lots of love. Alexandra, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
So much fun. I love this.
The rest of you, much love. Eddie, thank you for putting this together. And now if you ever want to throw a surprise party, Eddie's the guy to hire.
He is. He's very clever. I didn't have a clue.
I know, so
much love. I'm off to the lifeboat station. Ciao.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
Brittany to get a word in. My gosh, no, with Nelson and the two of us. No wonder we finally have a podcast. We said when we first met, we need a chat show. We need a chat show. And finally, 30 years later, we have one, but we don't shut up. Please, Brittany, speak.
Well, wait, hold on. For some reason, I don't know. Like, I'm still hearing that static.
Boy.
Do you still hear the
who
static?
Is it now? Oh, God.
Do you still hear the static? Ladies and gentlemen, Jeanette Goldstein is in the house.
Hello.
We don't know each other, but I know who you are. We work together. That's fantastic. Look at it.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
Jeanette, I also reached out to Jeanette. I just recently had her on for an evening with as well. And I realized at the end of that, there was next to no Titanic talk during that entire conversation. So when I realized you were going to be coming on, Alexandra, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. And maybe we can we can figure out had you guys interacted or not. And I guess we just got our answer right off the top.
You did. I mean, it was such a huge production, wasn't it? And in fact, even people in my film, I only know them because we all hung out in the bar, and Brian Walsh would play his pipes, and we would all sing, and like we've created our own little third class, party in the lobby / bar of the Real Del Mar in Mexico. So I don't know how you missed out on that.
Well, I had just adopted a baby, and he was 6 weeks old.
Oh,
and actually, I didn't know when he was coming, so I had told them when they kept pushing my time that, I might have to have another babe in arms wrapped up. He's not going to look very Irish, but, and they were like, not a problem. But then when it was like, he was 6 weeks, I was like, you know what, I'll leave him, because I didn't hang out, because I was shot. All my scenes were with children. So I was like in and out. I had to be like, so.
You had children's hours.
Literally. Yes. Children's hours.
Yes, it's not always a bad thing, especially on a James Cameron set, right?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And Jeanette, this is a very exciting moment, not only for myself, but and I'm sure for Alexandra, but to the left of me, to the right of me, I don't know which way is, but right next to me is the one of the co-hosts of a podcast dedicated to the movie. And it's I'm sure, like, I don't want to speak for you, Brittany, but
no,
I don't know how to do this introduction right now. But
tell us, Brittany, how you came to start your podcast, because it's a really beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you. Well, of course, it goes like way back to my Titanic origin story when I was 5 years old and I saw the movie for the first time on VHS at my grandparents' house. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. I don't know what it was in my 5-year-old brain that connected to Titanic, this 3-hour-long historical, romance epic, but it did something to me. And I remember saying back then very clearly, after maybe like the second time I watched it, that this is going to be my favorite movie forever, like direct quote from 5-year-old Brittany. And it's still true to this day. And so I remember, so we started the podcast, I think 2019, and then we took a really long break and now we're back. But I remember discovering podcasts in general around like 2018-ish. And then I was like, oh, so there are just podcasts about literally everything. And you can just find a podcast about anything you like, and you can listen to it like talk radio, you know what I mean? Except completely tailored to your interests. And so I searched for Titanic podcasts, and there were none, no podcasts just about the movie, but I was able to find a couple one-off episodes of like movie podcasts that would discuss Titanic for an episode. And I would listen to these episodes, and for whatever reason, the people who were talking about it, just like, they didn't get it. They didn't get the movie on the level that I know us fans get the movie. And they were coming at it from like a very surface level place of like, oh, it's like the corny love story. Only women like this movie, like blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of the episodes, the movie podcasts that I came across were hosted by men. So it was like a very skewed bias and perspective there. So that was bothering me as well as I was listening to all these episodes. And then I was just motivated. I was like, you know what? Like, no, like I have so much to say about this movie. And my co-host of the Titanic podcast, we had a previous podcast that we were already doing about something completely unrelated. And so I was like, yeah, why don't we start a Titanic one and have it be about this movie? Because my friend is a movie buff and he just loves movies. And I love James Cameron's Titanic. So I said, perfect combo, let's do it. And yeah, we decided to go scene by scene and break the movie down and try to talk about everything we can think of. And I'm sure even when we're done, we're probably going to go back and revisit scenes because there's still so much more to say. But yeah, so that's what we've been doing now since 2019. And
how far are you? Where are you now?
Amazingly, I cannot believe it. we're getting close to only having 49 minutes left of movie to talk about.
What are you gonna do? You'll have to go. You say right, like painting the fourth bridge. It's that, or the to get to the end, and they'll take you start at the beginning, and you will. I think you will have a new perspective, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think heading into like this back end of it, I'm trying to get a few more guests to come on, like other fans, especially to get other perspectives and voices on the podcast. Because I know my co-host Ethan like so well at this point. We've known each other for like 6 years, and we've been doing this podcast thing for so long that I kind of know where he's going to come at about certain things, and he knows where I'm going to kind of come at things from. And so it's really fun when we get a third voice in the mix and we have no idea where this person is gonna come at the movie from or what they're gonna say.
Well, we should bring you some of the actors as well, because then you get the inside story.
Yes, of course, of course.
When I did your podcast, of course I feel like I can talk about it, my little tiny moments, because there's the tiny moments that you see on screen, but then there's all this, as you know, all this backstory, which it's fascinating to me. I mean, it was a small city. Titanic was a small city, and so was that production for its entirety.
Yeah.
Now, the question that I have, since we have two of the alum from the film above us, first question goes to Alexandra. Did you just want to keep it as for the documentary? Did you just want to keep it as, okay, let's just focus on only the smaller roles? Did you ever contemplate going, let's reach out to Jeanette Goldstein and get her perspective?
I would have loved to have had Jeanette, and I actually have. I could have interviewed many people for my documentary, but I kept it down to the people who'd written a diary and who I knew 25 years ago. So the only person who doesn't have a diary is Nelson, who's not in the film. But the reason our two core extras, Judy and Ellen, who come as a one, they're like they're interchangeable. Judy and Ellen have all these amazing stories about stunts and being in the water. I mean, they did everything. And Judy had kept a diary which she published, so I had her read a bit from that. So we had to keep the parameters down. And then what's happened since we've made the film, or as we were closing things out and we were looking for distribution, of course you get the ever so typical question of, well, could you just get Leonardo DiCaprio to like narrate it, or because we could sell that. And I'm saying, but what you're missing is that the star of any movie about Titanic is Titanic. And so the ripple effect, I hope, after our documentary is that maybe we can do some staged readings of the diaries, because there's you only get like the tip of the iceberg of what people have written. So there's certainly more that can happen. And Jeanette, I know you're going to be in Las Vegas in August. Am I right that we're going to Titanic Con?
I have to talk to my agent, but I know I signed the violin. Somebody came by to have.
Oh, that's Emmett James. Yes, Emmett is. He's got everybody. I haven't signed it yet. Oh, I think I might have missed it, and they've sold it to charity. But no, this thing we're all interconnected. Yeah. All interconnected by a moment that for actors was a job, but it's now the ripple effect and the way people want to honor even our tiny parts. That's another thing I wanted to highlight in my film, was that of course there's all of the big stars, and we follow them through the story of the ship. We follow Jack and Rose, but there's all these supporting characters, many of whom played real people. So Liam Toohey played the baker, and oh gosh, I'm trying to think who else. Who else do I have who played a real character? Anyway, but they talk about doing all the research for a real character and showing up and having one line or two lines or three scenes. But all of that research gets folded into the essence of the film. And it's why James Cameron didn't just pull on a core extra to put her children to bed as the ship is sinking. He wanted an accomplished actress who probably, we know you've done all these other amazing jobs, but he wanted you. The way I got my job was because I managed to display in my audition, which I had to write, that I understood completely what a British first class passenger in 1912 would behave and how she would feel. So that's the depth of his casting choices as well. And I'm now talking as a director, feeling incredibly envious that he had all that money and time to do something so broad and deep.
I know, Jeanette, you can only stay for another minute or two. So my question before we let you go, and anyone else, did you keep a diary of your experience on Titanic?
I did not. I've never kept a diary of anything of my life, but I mean, not a written one, but I mean, it was the most, an incredibly memorable experience. I mean, first, just being able to play, I wasn't playing an actual person. It was a compilation. I mean, that was the interesting thing. It was a representation of all the forgotten, the nameless third-class passengers who none of us ever heard of. It was always, the women, the men and the women first. They never said, oh no, first class women and children first. They never mentioned. And so I know that James Cameron really wanted to highlight the class distinction very, very, very distinctly. And the one thing that I found really fascinating was in the script, it just says she puts them to bed. That's all it says. And so I asked him, I said, did you want me to sing them a song? He goes, you just figure out what you'd like to do. I mean, and the Irish actors came to me, mostly the musicians, and they were like, you must tell this story. It's the land of Tir na Nog. And they wrote the entire, page long, the whole story for me. Of course, I only get to be, the very beginning of it, but they said this will mean so much to Irish people if they hear this. And so I know it makes me cry, So, yeah, no, it was an incredibly, incredibly memorable experience. And I was very honored, to be a part of it.
Yeah, and we were all represented, and the cast, of course, dear Mally Finn has passed away now, but in my documentary we have Emily Schreber, her associate, and she talks about how they had to find Irish and Danish and English and all of these people because he really wanted to. It was a floating world. It was a microcosm.
It really was, yeah. It was, it was fantastic. All the different actors from all the different countries. And I mean, he was very, very, it was a passion project and he wanted to be as accurate as he could, I mean, that was his, I was the only non-Irish person there, pretending to be an Irish woman, but.
You're such a chameleon though. It's great.
Thank you.
It
anyway,
really oh, sorry. No, I was just going to compliment you going from something like Aliens to something like Titanic, and like just the broad range of the acting ability is amazing. But yeah, thank you for just surprising.
Well, thank you, and congratulations. I wish you a lot of luck on the documentary.
Thank you so much, and I might see you in Vegas.
I was going to say
yes. Okay.
Lovely.
All right, bye, Jeanette.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, what's next? Who's next?
Wait, hold on. Wait, do you hear the static?
Oh God.
No, I'm just kidding. Leo DiCaprio, ladies.
Oh God. Yeah, listen.
Imagine.
It was interesting. Of course, we went round the conversation of, should we reach out? One of my producers could get to, Kathy Bates, which would be fantastic. But going back to your question, Eddie, I really wanted to give a voice to the people who aren't asked.
I got you.
Don't have a voice. You just take them for granted. But what's interesting in the reviews and the feedback of Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, is that people are like, I've always wondered about that person, and I always see that guy, and I love the guy that gets punched in the nose by a rose, and now they've got their own backstory, and it's fascinating to people. And then they're like, well, I have to go back and watch the movie now. So essentially I've made a 90-minute trailer for Titanic. Immediately, if they haven't seen the film, then they have to watch it before they see my documentary. Or if they've seen it a million times, they say, I will never watch Titanic the same way again now. Because now when that person pops up or that person pops up, I have a whole new perspective. And that's the greatest compliment to me.
Yes. No. And honestly, like, of course I had to ask, did you contemplate Kate Winslet at all? But I mean, I really do like,
I'll tell you, she probably would have said no.
Said no. But I do like that you kept it focused on the people that unfortunately do not get the recognition of the Leos, of the Kates, of the Kathys, of the Billies.
That's the societal nature of the movies as well.
Yeah.
That we ate much better food than the extras in their windy little tent with, they didn't have dressing rooms. They were sort of just held in a huge holding area, a huge sort of makeshift hangar. And we had dressing rooms with showers. You hear Amy Guyper going, oh my God, this place is bigger than my apartment in New York. And, we all felt incredibly, I believe every actor, especially at a certain level, who's not, turning down work all day long and, oh my gosh, I've got so many scripts to read. The rest of us, the jobbing actors, we're just so thankful to be working. So I there were a couple of people who will remain nameless who could have moaned a bit about hanging around and not working as much as they would have liked. As long as they weren't working as much as they expected to work. But the whole thing is we were working while we were waiting because they needed to be able to draw on us when they got to whatever part or move the schedule around. I understand that now as a director. Even on the micro budget level that I work, you have to be flexible. The weather will screw you over, or somebody will get ill, or the fish doesn't work in Jaws. You have to work around it. And they had the budget to have us all sit around in costumes for a 12-hour shift and not see the set once and then go back to our bar. I was going to say our suites, but we went back to the bar and just, rinse, repeat until, one time they needed you. It was extraordinary, an extraordinary job.
Now, Brittany, correct me if I am wrong. Are you also on a time limit, or would you like to stick around? It's totally up to you. I just don't want to.
Yeah, probably just like a few more minutes. My mom and I were flying to a family wedding in South Carolina tomorrow morning, very early. So I do gotta pack and get to sleep.
It always takes longer than you think, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
But obviously, you watched the movie or the documentary. You watched the documentary, and what are your thoughts on the documentary?
Apart from the fact you're in it.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, that was
you're
so
like kind
cool.
of integral on that.
That was very cool, and seeing us in the end credits as well as Titanic scene by scene, and the two of us, that was very cool as well. No, but it really, it's just such a, like I've said, it's just such an honor to be alongside so many other people. I think I said it in our interview with you, Alexandra, that, if you could have told my childhood self all of this, it just would not compute. It doesn't make sense that I would be, part of this like amazing thing so many years down the line, the celebratory documentary for this movie that, we all love so much. But yes, hearing from all the people that don't have a voice normally, and again, as like hawk-eyed fans of the movie, of course we know all these people, of course we recognize them, like of course I recognized you right away when we got in contact and stuff. I was like, of course you're that first class woman, like this isn't just a background character, this is that woman who raises her eyebrow at Jack. And so it's just so, like, hearing all their stories, it was very emotional, and you know, yeah. I mean, I can't really even put it into words how wonderful it's been to watch it. Obviously I've seen it more than once now. I've shared it with a bunch of people as well. Yeah, I really can't say enough.
How did you end up in the documentary?
I
Yeah, you
messaged you on
just
Instagram. I just messaged her. I said that's a fascinating project, podcasting every scene by scene. You've got to be in my film. I have to be the person asking you why. And it doesn't matter why. I don't think it just is now. You know, all of us are just connected. And I wanted to have a variety of expression of fandom.
Yeah.
That there are a lot of collectors. There are a lot of people who there's one guy, doesn't he just collect the VHSs? He just goes to all the
I love him.
and he's like, I got another one, and he's opening it on Instagram, and you're like, I could have, you know, there's Raf Avila, the Titanic guy on TikTok. We didn't have room for him. And in fact, reminds me, I would like to have him on a podcast if he's listening. I wanted to get a variety of people expressing their Titaniacness, and this podcast, this PhD in James Cameron's Titanic was fascinating to me. And we had a great conversation. And we still are having a great conversation.
And so that was recorded after your interview. It wasn't in the same session.
We
It
combined.
was,
Yeah, we recorded the podcast, and I said, right now it's my turn. I'm going to interview you.
Very cool.
For the movie, and of course, you know, my trusty editor Mikey had to wade through all that gold, and you know, because there's so much. We could do another whole movie, of course, with all the stories. You really only get a taste of them because 90 minutes is 90 minutes, you know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, it was definitely something very special to watch. And then because I knew Brittany was in it, but I didn't know that I just thought it was going to be like a quick flash of a bunch of different people. And I go, oh, there she is. Oh, and again, she's gone. And then like all of a sudden this whole segment starts playing, and I look at Haley, and I'm like, what the heck's going on here?
Like, you know her.
So cool. This is so cool. Like I felt the joy through Brittany, because I know how much this means to Brittany, speaking as if she's not here right now. Like I know how much it means to her. So like, it was just so cool. It was so cool to see that. And then of course at the end, like she was talking about the end credits, I took a photo of it. I sent it to her. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It is. It's so weird, isn't it? I remember my very first job when I was 19 or something. I had a tiny part in a little BBC drama. And that was before the days before you could record things on television. So I was watching my name going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and then it was gone. And it is the best thing to see your name in the credits. I still get a kick out of it. And now it says a film by Alexandra Boyd. And that is that for years and years before I made my first feature film, I would go to a movie and it would be a film by Steven Spielberg, a film by Ron Howard. And I'd go, a film by Alexandra Boyd. I'd like to recognize my name in the place of those directors. You notice I didn't come up with any female directors. That was
I was going to say, yep.
There's more now. There's more now. Catherine Bigelow and Chloe Zhao.
Yep. Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Brittany, unless there's anything else you want to add, you are free.
Have a lovely time at the wedding. How lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, it should be good.
Lovely to see you again.
You too. I'm so glad to be a part of it.
We are friends now. This is it.
Pop on.
We are friends for life.
Yes, all the Titanic family. That's great.
Fantastic.
I love it. Have a good time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later. All right. And then there were two.
There were two.
Oh, all right. So now we can do what I've been totally just, there's a live chat going as we're doing this.
Oh, I can't see that. I'm excited to see what people are saying.
Yeah. So we have a whole audience watching us, and I apologize, live audience. There was just a lot for me to juggle right there. All these people that I was trying to
Very well. It was
surprise.
Very impressed.
But right from the get-go, we have, and a lot of these are faithfuls to the channel, but hey there, fans of something. One of our phenomenal moderators, Boom. Hey, Ed, and welcome, Alexandra. Let's talk Titanic.
We are. Thank you.
Let's see here. Eric Stone saying hi, all. Hello, Eric. They were talking to each other. All right, here we go. We have Amateur Time Lord saying hi, everyone.
Oh, I think I know Amateur Time Lord. Is that Megan?
Is that Megan?
Mm,
You know the screen name Amateur Time Lord?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep up with everyone, but I think that's her.
Let us know, Amateur Time Lord, if you're still watching. Yay, Nelson. Does that give it away?
Yeah, a little bit, but no, because that's from when Nelson was on. Yeah.
Yep. This is when. Yep. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Hello, all. Finally able to post. Please tell Alexandra and Nelson this is Judy P from the documentary.
Oh, Nolly Tigger. Okay, I've seen her posting things. I'm like, she's chatting away like she's in the film, but she's got a pseudonym. Hello, Judy. Yes, Judy's the one who wrote the book, Living the Legend, the diaries of a background actress on James Cameron's Titanic. And she has some really fabulous stories. It's Judy and Ellen, remember the two poor extras. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, that was because I forget which one, but she was reading her diary and she gets emotional. She gets really emotional because remind me why she gets emotional. Like I feel
because
horrible.
Her son was also working on the film, but I don't want to give anything away.
Yes. Yes.
But also she talks about, and Linda Kearns too. They talk very, very movingly about doing the scenes in the water as people were passing away, as they were dying and their screams were dying away, and how it was really affecting. That it wasn't just, oh, we've come to work today and we're going to stand in this stupid tank and there's a guy over there, Jim, yelling at everybody. It really affected them, and that was an extraordinary part of the storytelling, I thought, because as an actor it is very hard to separate yourself. You have to it's almost like channeling something in a very your tool is your emotion and your heart. Yes, you're using your voice and your body, but you're having to reach places sometimes that you wouldn't normally do, so you make yourself very available to that. I remember hearing Sally Field going, you keep a scab that's a little bit raw, that's never quite healed. So if you need to go back and go to that really sore place, you can do it more easily. And actors tend to do that. But when you're in a movie where it's not a stage, when you're in theatre, there's a sort of understanding between the audience and the actors that this isn't quite real. This is a manufactured situation, and that's theatre. But when you do a movie, you're trying your hardest to make it as real as possible. And so for me, walking onto that in first class dining room set was it. I was there. Those people in that tank, in those jackets, were soaked with water. It wasn't 28 degrees, but they knew that they were portraying people who died of hypothermia in 15 minutes. And it was very affecting for them.
Yeah, and again, I think that's also a testament to the documentary. Is you don't, as the audience, you don't think that affects an actor. You think the actor comes onto the set, does their thing, leaves, goes home, starts the next job, that kind of thing. You don't think that years later, if they're recounting what they're remembering, experiencing, that they're going to hit some emotional point and just remember like, oh, I totally remember how I felt right there, and it was anything but joyful.
Yeah, we use the expression triggering now, which I dislike intensely, but it's like it's a little switch that's been there dormant. It doesn't go away. And in fact, on Titanic Talk, Nelson and I interviewed James Lancaster, who plays Father Biles, and I couldn't find him in time for the film because he wrote a beautiful diary. It's just 2 pages, and I had him read the diary on the podcast. And he can't get through it. He does, but he has to stop, and he gets a Kit Kat, and he apologizes. I'm so sorry. I haven't read this in 25 years. And he was taken right back to to that day, or those days, that week it took for Kate and Leo to pass him while he was holding onto those people as the poop deck was sliding their lives away. Maybe some more questions.
Yes, we're gonna we're gonna bounce back and forth here. So I'm gonna pull up another question here. This one is something that I've pondered a little bit, and keyword is slightly. This is the keyword, slightly. Which are you slightly more proud of, the documentary or the podcast? Because obviously you're proud of both of them.
Yeah, I'm slightly more proud of the documentary, and the podcast has come out of, we want material and content because we are self-distributing at the moment. We've got it online. It's only $2.99 for a limited amount of time, $3, less than a Starbucks coffee, right? You can watch them, you can experience the documentary. But one of the things that the podcast is doing is drawing people back to the documentary to watch it. But at the same time, because like I said, we couldn't have people all reading their entire diaries, I got those actors back and we talk in more detail. And I'm definitely going to have Brittany and Ethan back on our podcast. That's the thing, you sort of cross-pollinate your podcasts and reciprocate in that way. So yeah, the documentary, because trust me, putting together a podcast is so much easier than putting a movie together. There's so many things to think of. I'm very happy that the documentary is complete and its own thing, and the podcast is it's a little bit of a cherry on the cake.
Yes, absolutely. It's a nice companion piece.
It's exactly that. Like we're a companion piece to Titanic. Paramount, are you listening? And the podcast is a companion piece to the documentary.
Yeah, it's great. And one of the other things that stood out to me, and I was like, wait, hold on, what is the budget on this thing? Because like on one hand, I'm thinking it's really low budget, but then on the other hand, I'm watching incredible CGI just of the ship itself. And
Titanic Honor and Glory. Yes.
And
that's
I was watching it.
To James Penker and his team. They are on a mission. I think it's 10 years in now to digitally recreate in exquisite detail every aspect of that ship from the ground up. And I was looking for B-roll. You can't just have people reading their diaries. You've got to keep cutting away to interesting visual things. Film is a visual medium. So I was looking for something of the carpet, because I remember having a conversation with Peter Lamont, the art director, about the carpets we were sitting on or standing on. He said they're the same carpet pattern cards that Wilton they still have them from 1912. They're like, yeah. What, you want that one from the Titanic? We've got here, Eric, go in the back there. And they go into their archives and they pull out and they put them on the looms, and they wove the same carpets that Titanic had. This doesn't really go into I don't go into detail in it in the documentary, but that's what I know, because I sat next to Peter Lamont, who was dressed as the ship's doctor on the captain's table when I get sat at the captain's table and then they go to the big table. But I sat there with Peter and Bernard Hill and the Strausses while they were setting up the big table. And you're chatting between takes. And Peter was like, yeah, we got this. And those wicker chairs in the conservatory room. He said they still had we just sent them a picture and they just made them just like they were on Titanic. And then they drowned them in the tank. And then the next time I came back from Los Angeles, they were all piled, those wicker chairs were all piled up outside one of the studio buildings, completely destroyed by water.
Well,
I went off on a tangent then. What was I talking about?
No, we were talking about the CGI, like how good it looks.
Oh, yes. So Titanic Honor and Glory, I Googled Titanic carpet, and one of their images from the first class dining room or the grand staircase bit. I was like, oh, I found the carpet. I need to find them and ask them if I can use it. And then I found all of these amazing, and it was because we've used tiny bits of the film in my film, but actually we only put those in at the last minute as we found out we could use them in fair use. But before we could use bits of the film, we didn't don't take this the wrong way, we didn't miss it because we had Dale's beautiful sketches, his pencil sketches that look like Jack's sketches that, oh, this is the actress now and this is her 25 years ago in the film, but he sketches it out. And that to me is so creative and so effective that we don't need to rely on the film, and we don't need to because everybody knows the film. Everybody's
Exactly,
so familiar with it. What we're doing is we're cracking open these characters that, as you said, haven't had a voice till now. So yes, Titanic, Honor and Glory. My gosh, what an accomplishment they have. Nelson, when we were doing our live stream, I used like a loop while we were waiting to start, and they gave me this what I call a seagull's view of the ship going around like this. It's like a drone shot.
Yeah, I love it.
And they put a bit of sound effect in, so as you get closer, you can hear the engines pumping, and it just and Nelson and I were waiting to go on, and this image of the ship came up, and he went, "Oh, there she is," and it really is. So it's fantastic. We've been very lucky, and yes, we are. To answer your question, super low budget, but still a lot of money for 90 minutes of film. We still have investors to pay back.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was watching it because I was thinking you were using footage from the movie, and I was thinking, I don't remember this level of detail in the movie with the steady cam thing going on. And I was like, what is
flying
happening
down
here?
the staircase and into
Yeah.
no, it's and actually I didn't quite intend it that way. I said I want you to fly seagull's eye view, fly along the deck into the top of the staircase and spiral your way down all of the staircases and just go into the first class dining room. And of course, the final moment of that sequence is right where I'm standing in the film, to the left of the doorway, and then that's the title sequence, and then the movie begins. So.
Amazing. No, it's really stunning. And then of course the reenactments that you did, I found out through one of your podcasts that you built sets.
Well, that was the other thing. I wasn't quite sure about it. I was like, we've got this young team of stunt performers in Atlanta, and they've already built the poop deck. And you can see it's very rudimentary, but I didn't mind it being a bit mechanical. I wanted to see the green screen, the green pads that they fall into, and I wanted to see the mechanics as the actors are talking about, and then these stunt performers are just flying past us, and I was really scared. I wanted to show the outside in, and there's behind the scenes shots of that film. There's behind the scenes clips of that on the DVD extras. But we wanted our own in case we couldn't use too much of it. So these young stunt guys who were just amazing, they were just throwing themselves up the poop deck and sliding down, doing it again. And yes, a big shout out to them because and then I have to say, I sewed all of the life jackets. I went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of those car wash sponges and put 6 in the front and 6 in the back. To sort of pad out and it was canvas drop cloth, painting canvas drop cloths, and I made about 7. I think I made far too many. My eyeballs were exploding by the end of it. Nick said, "Oh, that's lovely. 1, can you make 7?" I was like, "No, the what?" He said, "No, we need to put them on everybody," which of course is right. I got a bit better as I kept sewing them, so a bit faster.
Excellent. It's good. And this is a great question. How much time did it take to film the documentary?
Well, the filming bits are very short spurts because they're just interviews. So it took over a period of 18 months, 16 months. Okay. The longest period in making a film is the editing, actually, and in folding in the music and deciding what music you want, and making the story, making the chapters of the story flow. You go backwards and forwards. Okay, now we're going back to this person, and now we're going forward to these people, and now we're sewing it all up and putting it all together. And that takes a lot. It's like when you film something, you have hours and hours and hours, especially in a documentary, you have hours of footage. It's like having this big unwieldy piece of clay that you have to slowly mold and polish and just sand it down and make it what it ends up being. And there's this magical moment in the edit where it just feels clunky, and every time you watch it, that bit, we've got to fix that bit, can we just dump that bit now because it's taking too long to get to this bit? and you do that for months, if you have the luxury to do it for months. And then all of a sudden it goes, it's a movie. Oh my gosh, I can watch this now. And the flow is there, and the music is beautiful, and all of the B-roll works. And but you sometimes have to. It takes a long time to get there. It takes a long time.
Absolutely. This is my co-host on the channel, also my girlfriend. She just didn't feel like she was qualified, I guess, enough to because she's not like super big into the whole Titanic.
Oh,
Thing,
okay.
the way I
Well,
am,
I'm sad not to have met you, Haley. That's a shame.
But we did watch the documentary together, and here's her commenting on the everybody coming together. So let's see. Oh, it's such a beautiful film, and I'm very new to the Titanic legend.
That's the other thing that, you know, that we're learning is that people can be film fans. They're, I think Megan is a Trekkie, or a, you know, and people that fall into that Star Trek or Star Wars or Doctor Who. There's that sci-fi world, and as Judy just said, you know, her interest only happened because of the film. You can't ignore it once you've been in the film. You feel very connected to the story. But you know, if you like a bit of history, if you like you know, social commentary or costumes, you know, just Dale and Zach and I and Ilka and I could talk about corsetry for an hour, you know, Edwardian corsetry and what it does to your body and your manner and the way you know, your bearing and how you hold yourself, and how women, you know, there's a scene in the movie in Titanic where her mother is literally pulling her. You don't think that's not a metaphor for the life that she has been roped into?
Yeah.
And by the time she's running through the ship with Jack, she's in that pink purple floaty chiffon thing, and you cannot see a corset there. I'm not even sure she's wearing one at that point. It, you know, even the costumes have a metaphor for the story and for the way women were, you know, corseted into their clothing so that they couldn't move.
Yep. I remember watching it like at that exact scene you're talking about when I first saw the movie years ago. I was so young. It did nothing for me, obviously. I was just like, okay, next. Can we get to the ship sinking? And then of course, as I got older and rewatched the movie, that's one of the most powerful moments in the entire film, is when, you know, you totally understand the struggle, the dilemma. Everything is perfectly conveyed in there. And then of course you have the whole putting the corset on. It's just, gosh.
Yeah. There's some very clever moments that like, you know, like Brittany and Ethan discover, you know, once you sit down and start breaking it down, it's like it's like breaking down Shakespeare and interpreting what that character did or why that character did such and such. And we're still doing his plays 400 years later, you know. People will still be watching Titanic 400 years from now. I can guarantee you. Guarantee you.
Oh yeah. Noli saying my interest in Titanic is why I went to be part of the film. Interest started when I was 7.
Oh, you know what? That's right. Judy does talk about being a huge, having a huge interest. And then when her son said they're making Titanic down in Mexico, because she was living in San Diego, and then there was this casting call for extras. And yeah, she came, they were lucky to have her because she came fully primed with what she needed to know.
That's wild. It's just, what's so wild about this whole experience, just from the movie being made to now, is how, and talking with you, talking with Jeanette, talking with anybody that's ever been associated or just a fan of it, is, to me, like, this is the biggest movie. Like, I know Avatar, Avengers, and all that other stuff came and took it over. But to me, in my opinion, just from a technical standpoint, this is the biggest movie of all time. It's the most mammoth thing that's ever been accomplished. I still can't fathom that there was actually the Titanic built, like a set was built.
90% replica. Yeah. We went along that gangplank and we got on the ship. Yes.
I can't fathom that. To me, that just doesn't add up. And then watching the documentary and it's just, it's insane. And how And of course, you're talking about it semi nonchalantly just because you were there, and now of course you've had all this time to let it soak in. But for me, it's just like you're talking about Titanic, the biggest movie of all time. It's insane. It's like absolutely insane.
Yes, yes, and that's why, and I think all of my actors, they're my actors now. They're not Jim's actors. They're my actors in my documentary. All of those actors, we recognize that. We recognize that, you know. Oh, as Mark says, oh, you're an actor. Have you been in? They always go, what? Have you been in anything I've seen? I've seen, and I go, well, I was like this much in Titanic, and it immediately sparks a conversation with everybody.
Someone wants to hug you at the beginning of
Yes,
your
they
documentary.
want to hug you, and that's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I was, for a very short time, I had a big part in a big UK primetime soap called Coronation Street, and I was famous in the UK for a brief moment in time. And because this show is on 3 nights a week, and there are people who are like, don't call me at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays or Fridays or Mondays because I'm watching Coronation Street. They are, you know, plugged into this soap opera. Ongoing drama is what they call it. And, you know, and people would be like, they'd be like, oh, you're an actress. What have you been in? I said, well, I'm in Coronation Street right now. Oh, I never watched that. They're like, they're proud to say that you're in the biggest show on TV in the UK, but they don't watch it. People don't do that with Titanic. People go, oh my gosh, what would you, you know, it's a very different vibe. It's its own vibe.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. And like I said at the beginning, you know, I haven't lived and breathed Titanic for the last 25 years. I've been dining out on my stories. It's a dinner party conversation, you know, but of course, because now I've made a film about it, I have to talk about it a lot more, and I'm perfectly happy to do so.
Yeah. And then of course, as long as, do you see this isn't a question I have ahead of time, but do you see an end similar to Brittany and Ethan's podcast? Do you see an end in sight, or is it just like, let's go?
Well, I think Nelson and I are quite clear that we could do a podcast for a long time, you know, maybe several seasons, just because of our other professional commitments. We may not be able to do quite as prolifically as we are at the moment. But the problem is we keep finding people we want to interview, just like you do, I'm sure. It's like, you know, you build it and they come. So we'll have to control that a little bit. But look, you're not going to tell me that in 5 years' time there'll be a 30-year anniversary re-release and it'll be in 6K, because you know 6K is coming down the pipe. And, you know, we'll all have televisions that can screen 6K by then. And then there'll be the 50 year. I'll be long gone by then, but there'll be the 50 year. My film will still be there. I'll have to bequeath it to somebody. You know, it's perennial. It will always come up every April the 15th. You know, the Titanic societies have the entire month of April. They plot. You know, you've seen it on, you know, on the social media. They plot from the moment it left Belfast and then went to Southampton and then to Cherbourg. And now this day, 111 years ago, it was here. And on this day, I mean, there's a, you know, it's not so much here, but in the UK, World War I commemorations in November of that. We will not forget the trenches of World War I, which was so awful and devastating. This is a version of that because it was so isolated and so intense. But there, you know, so lest we forget, we will never forget the tragedy and the horror of it.
Yeah, there's really nothing like you know, what, like, because those pages they'll post the very last known photo of the Titanic leaving.
Yes,
just
yes,
like
exactly.
that's haunting stuff.
Yes,
that's so haunting. Like, if, like, I'm always wondering, you know, if I had a time machine, what would I do with it, right? And then right now in this,
you wouldn't get
moment,
on Titanic, I hope.
Well, no, I would go back in time and I'd be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't even get on this boat in the first place. We're like, don't even get on it and course correct. Like, just don't even get on it. Go on one of the other ones.
Would they listen to you? There's like this American kid, and he keeps coming up to the captain saying, "Go a bit further south because there's icebergs.
Yeah.
You'd be like Cassandra, you know, the legend of Cassandra, the Greek story. She could see the future and she kept telling them, this is going to happen. That is going to happen. And people were just like, ugh, go away. We don't want to listen to another tragic story. And it drove her mad. She actually went insane because nobody would believe her. And then, of course, something would happen. She'd be like, see?
Yeah.
But it drove her crazy.
Yeah, no, those are like the fun plots to think about, like when it comes to, because it sounds like a movie we're thinking of right now, but like about because there's a Stephen King novel, 11/22/63. Do you know about that?
No.
A guy goes back in time to try to stop the assassination of JFK,
Oh, well,
and
you could do that with so many incidents, right?
that's what I'm saying. It's just like, and that's a Stephen King novel right there. But I mean, this sounds like something he could write. You know, go back in time and attempt to course correct the this thing. And like what would you do? Like, would you bring like newspapers, like replicas even of the newspaper? Because you can't.
But they'd be like, you just printed the future date on there. Why am I going to believe that newspaper? Oh, we have one of our podcast guests is Simon Medhurst, who's the great grandson of Quartermaster Hitchens, who was at the wheel when they struck the iceberg, and he survived. All the quartermasters survived because they were all put in lifeboats to steer them, to man them.
Mm-hmm.
And he made this incredibly poignant point that if he had not survived, Simon and all of his side of the family would not be here if he had gone down with the ship. So you think of all the families that haven't happened because of the 1,500 people that died, and then all of the people who are here because of those who survived. It's the sliding doors moment, isn't it?
It's wild. Yep. It's absolutely wild. Let's see here. Another one of our great moderators, Horror and More, says, "Bro, I come in and I thought my laptop was messing up."
Yes. Oh, because you were pixelating us and bringing.
That was pixelating. Which, by the way, do you? No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to do that the whole time. There's no more surprises. I promise.
Okay, good. Okay.
There's no more.
I wouldn't mind, but I'm prepared now if there is one.
Brittany, you could like analyze all the deleted scenes.
Oh, yes, that's a very good point, of which there are many. Yes, because everyone's like, why doesn't he do a 7-hour version and put all the deleted scenes back in? A friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine, a Titanic friend of mine, did that in London. And I don't know quite. He did a screening, and it's before I knew him. And then I got to know him. But he has done that. He's a bit of an editor and a filmmaker type videographer. And he's put in all, but it's in his laptop. It's not out there anywhere. He wouldn't be able to release it. That's up to James Cameron. I've always said too, I've said this many times now, that if James Cameron was making this film today, he'd make it a 10-part Netflix series with, $10 million an episode, like The Crown. You know, they've been able to tell the entire story of Queen Elizabeth II in several seasons, and it's lush, it's so detailed and it's so specific, and he would have done that, and you'd have still probably had those central characters, Jack and Rose, but you'd have been able to go off into these cul-de-sacs of other people and tell their stories, I think.
And I know they've done that. They've done, like, I know there's one with Nev Campbell.
It was more of a series. It took a bit longer to sync. Yes. Yeah.
There's so many tellings of this thing. I like, seriously, I do think this is the best one. And I don't, I think he was doing an interview. Cameron was doing an interview for the re-release, and he's like, someone asked him, he was like, something about people remaking his movie years down the road, how they did Psycho. And he's like, well, they did Psycho, so I'm sure at some point they're going to remake this movie. And it's just like, I can't imagine remaking Titanic.
I'm not quite sure why people remake any of it. I mean, you could argue that Titanic is a remake of A Night to Remember, but it's not, because it's a complete reinterpretation of the movie based on the true facts. But wasn't Psycho like shot for shot?
Shot for shot, yes.
What? Well, do that at film school. Don't waste my time. No.
It was probably just because I think that's Gus Van Sant, the guy who did Good Will Hunting. I think it's just like an experiment. You just want to
Well, I'm going to use a bad word now. We call that wanking. It's just, it's just his
wanking.
own. Yeah. You
Is
might have
that
to Google that.
like is that the F word over here?
No, something else. You have to Google it.
Okay.
It's the equivalent to actors scenery chewing in plays and taking all the focus or just doing something for their own pleasure. It's not, you can call it
Oh,
you can call it a passion project. You can call it a passion project or a vanity project, but
Yep.
it's not really. If you're Gus Van Sant, obviously you have the status, and somebody gave you the money to do it. But
you wouldn't do that.
No, I'm not particularly interested. There are too many good movies to watch news stories. I don't really go and watch Shakespeare anymore, or plays that I was deeply embedded in and connected to when I was at drama school, say, or when I had a theatre company. Like, oh, plays, Shakespeare. Oh, it's the thing. I've seen them all now. And if I haven't seen it, it's because they don't produce it because it's no good. And I know how all those plays end. I don't want to see another version of Midsummer Night's Dream. I've been in it and I've seen some beautiful ones in open parks, as the sun's going down and the fairies are all coming out of the woods and everything. It's lovely, but I don't need to see another version of it. I know how it ends. So I want to see new stories. And that's why, bringing it perfectly back to my documentary, these are new stories. Nobody has heard these stories we're telling. Nobody has.
Yeah.
Because they've been locked in my computer in PDFs for 25 years.
I love it. You were about to perfectly segue into my next question. Just some of your favorite films.
Oh, there's so many out there. Early on, before I knew I was going to be a filmmaker, when I was just an actress, I loved, and I've watched over and over and over again, Out of Africa. I think Meryl Streep is an absolute goddess, and she's like a prime goddess in that film. And I wanted to live in Africa and wear, brown riding boots and good huge hats and cravats, and Robert Redford has the worst English accent playing the English gentleman, but you just don't care because it's just so sweeping and romantic. And the music is John Barry, who composed all the James Bond stuff, but this is this beautiful sweeping score, and it has me in ice, like ugly cry, snot cry every time at the end. I just love taking myself to that terribly sad romantic place every time.
That's a Best Picture winner, right? Out of Africa.
Yes.
Okay.
It did big things. And then more recently, this is going to sound weird, but I just loved Marriage Story. I just have this. I've been through a divorce a long time ago, and I didn't have children, but it just perfectly explained what this man goes through to try and save his marriage. And then when it's gone, it just all goes to shit. It just is just awful. And I've watched that a couple of times. The Revenant. Oh my God. I've seen that 3 times in the cinema. That is a masterpiece. And it's Leonardo DiCaprio. When you look at what he did in Titanic, and then, 20 years later, he literally drags himself through the tundra to come back to this civilization. I just thought it was just an extraordinary film and extraordinary filmmaking, making me think I'd like to watch that again. And then more recently, I'm a member of BAFTA, so I watch all the movies coming up that are, looking for nominations and so forth. And this year, oh gosh, I loved Elvis. I just thought here's the thing too, when you talk about like reproducing or remaking or just doing a biopic, Baz Luhrmann has done this beautiful thing with the music where he completely takes you back to the gospel music that he grew up with, and the bluegrass music he grew up with, and all of this jazz in the wrong side of town. He was this white kid in this black community, and he manages to morph that music into the music of Elvis. So he never actually really sings any of those really famous Elvis songs. They become part of the evolution of the story, and it just just grips you. And another biopic was Rocket Man about Elton John. And at the Q&A at that, I was so choked up. I said, look, you've just screened your movie with a bunch of BAFTA members. We're all filmmakers. We're all connected to this industry somehow. You've made this wonderful story about the struggle of Elton John with drugs and sex addiction and all the things. And he was still producing this amazing music, which is certainly a soundtrack to my youth. But what you've really done is you have made a movie about the creative condition, like the struggle to be creative, what it takes to make movies, what it takes to make great music. And when you are a storyteller, when you're somebody who's struggling to make things, the journey is the same. So it affected me. Those are the movies that affect me, like Elvis, a little bit Bohemian Rhapsody did that a little bit. And because I'm not really a musical fan, but the struggles of artists are fascinating stories to me.
Yeah. No. La La Land.
I liked La La Land, but my takeaway from La La Land was that opening dance sequence where all of their knickers matched their dresses. I was like, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years and I never wore the same color pants as my dress.
I love it. I love it. And then going back to Leo, funny enough, I actually think he peaked super early with Gilbert Grape.
Yes. Yes. He's an extraordinary actor, and I don't think Titanic brings out his talents like that. Oh, the other one was Wolf of Wall Street. Oh my God, I remember looking at my watch, going, "What time is it?" It was like an hour and a half in, and it was so clear we weren't done. You know, these directors, they make far too long movies, but I just loved it. He was so clever in that. Yep. That one, the scene when he's taken all the Quaaludes or whatever, and they weren't working, so they might be out of date, so he keeps taking more, and then he crawls out of the car back into the house. I mean, I'm laughing and crying, laughing because it's so clever, yep. and he's so different from anything he's done before or since. I mean, that man, that's acting. That is acting. Yep. He's quite an extraordinary talent, which I have to say I did not see on the set of Titanic. He was making fart noises before the takes. He was just, there was Kate Winslet. She was very serious on all her scripts and her notes down the margins and everything, and he was just having a laugh.
He was farting.
A laugh.
Yeah, no. Did you ever see their other collaboration, Revolutionary Road?
Oh my gosh, fantastic!
I mean, you talk about Marriage Story, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yep. Directed by her husband of the time, Sam Mendes. I think that's a fantastic film.
Yep.
Fantastic.
And I don't know why. I seriously hope they're contemplating wrapping up the DiCaprio Winslet trilogy at some point. Give us one more film together.
One more film, yeah. What can it be? Somebody will have to write them something, and somebody will have to direct them. Oh, okay. If you've got the numbers, let me know. I'll send them something.
And then here's the funny thing, right? So I said, let's get the trilogy completed, and I pointed to you to direct it. But my question is, and you have to pick one.
Kate.
Because of the fart noise?
No. No. She could just she's like a handful of actresses to me that could read the phone book. I would listen to her read the entire phone. I just think she's just brilliant. I think she's just brilliant.
There we go. Yeah, like that was just something I was like, this is such an obvious question. I don't know if you've ever been asked it. Would you rather direct the two?
No, I do have a script that Kate could do. She'd be wonderful.
There you go.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Titanic, they fall in love. Revolutionary Road, they fall out of love. So the third film should be, I don't know, just a comedy. Just a comedy.
Maybe a comedy. Yeah. I'm not good at comedy. I did write a comedy last year, and I was quite surprised how funny it turned out. People were like, "Oh, I laughed out loud." I was like, "Oh, thank God." No, I need to write movies to slit your wrists by, like slightly dragging yourself through the mud, and then it's all right in the end. But I like sort of taking my characters to the edge of their existence and then bringing them back out again. I like drama.
Laren saying Alexandra wrote her audition. That's impressive.
Yes. And I was scared stiff because I hadn't I was an actress. I read scripts. I don't write them. And I hadn't written anything since school, but as you know, I asked Nelson to help me with the research. And then a friend of mine, she was a screenwriter, and she helped me write a monologue, which I put together based on what I knew and her sprinkle of magic, and then learnt it and went in and, got me the job.
Beautiful. Amateur Time Lord. That's a fun story. Listen to Brittany's podcast where they interviewed Alexandra. Yes, I was sitting in my car and I was waiting for Haley one day, and I was like, all right, new episode, let's go. And that's how I found out about you. So
right. You know, she never shuts up. I'll have her on my show because I have to fill a couple of hours.
It was good. It's good. I love. And are you familiar that she was on The Voice? Do you know The Voice?
Yes. Yeah, I did
like
know
just
that.
the coolest thing. The coolest
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time doing Ship of Dreams, seeing people we had been with during filming.
Yeah, it was like a reunion. Yeah.
We have Zach Douglas.
Zach! He's in Australia. I don't know. He might be just waking up, actually. He's
Maybe,
in
yeah.
Tomorrowland. Yes.
Yep.
That's so cute.
Hello, Zach. Good to have you join us. I, of course, remember Zach from, he's in the documentary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible collection of costumes and jewelry.
Yeah.
And he's got an entire place setting for like 6 people of plates, knives, forks, crystal glasses, everything, menu holders. I said, so what's Friday nights like at your house? Do does everyone come over and you cook? No, nobody drinks out of the glasses. And we were trying to get B-roll. I said, put some wine in it, pour some wine in it, get really close. No, wine in the glass. I said, Zach, when I come to Australia, and I will, I'm coming to your house. I'm going to cook you a filet mignon. We're going to bring a really expensive bottle of red wine, and we're going to eat and drink off your... Well, I don't know. Just the thought of it sent him into conniptions. So, but I'm determined. I said, it's like having your posh stuff just for Christmas. You don't have your posh stuff for Christmas. You have it, eat off it when you want to.
Exactly.
Yes.
A dream to be a part of it. Sincere and humbling dream.
Yeah. Well, they're all my favorites. But Zach has some fantastic stories, and he's a very serious collector, so he's in the collector's world, and they're quite a tight little band of Titaniacs. An extended director's cut. Yes, we could certainly do another episode. We could.
Alexandra, when are you selling me your script?
He knows that I've got a Titanic script, my script. It's got the proverbial coffee ring on the front and a telephone number written in biro, in ballpoint pen.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at it the other day, and Nick was like, let's just call that number. Let's see who it is, because I can't remember. It's a 25-year-old phone number. I don't know who it is. It must have just been on my desk in 1997, before it was released, before, anybody knew anything about Titanic. And I remember, just putting it into all of my storage. It's been in storage. It's in a suitcase under my bed right now.
Wow. Incredible. This is funny. It's the unsinkable ship, but let's listen to this Eddie dude. Talk about the time travel.
Oh, yes.
It's unsinkable, but why? Whatever. Let's listen to this guy.
Yeah, he says it sinks. So shut up. Go back
get out of here.
Go back to your cabin. Have another cigar and a brandy.
Yeah. Let me see here. Let me pull up a couple other ones here. This is one that I think we all ponder because it's been close to happening, but as far as I know, it's actually never happened. If they ever actually make a replica of the Titanic, are you buying a ticket?
I think it depends where it was going, because actually the whole idea of a cruise ship doesn't appeal to me at all. There is talk of a replica Titanic. There's also a replica Titanic hotel being built in China, but it's being thwarted by finance problems. It sort of stops and starts. So you can go and stay in the hotel as if you're on the Titanic. And I know people who do Titanic lectures on cruise ships, thinking, I'm going to do this lecture. I'll get 3 people. packed, absolutely packed. People come and they're on a cruise and they want to hear all about the biggest ship story that sank. So I would go on a ticket. You know what? I'd like to be invited on. I don't know if I'd buy a ticket.
So
And it's
okay,
not
so
because I'm superstitious. I think it would be fascinating. But I'd be walking along going, well, James Cameron's set was much more lifelike, much more detailed than this. Call that a grand staircase? Call that
Yeah.
a grand staircase? I'll be the judge of that.
it's such a, like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so disrespectful, how dare you, like, especially if it's a replica and they literally chart the same course kind of thing, you know. That's like, okay, now you're kind of pushing it there.
There is like the Cunard cruises, you know, the QE2 and the QE22, whatever is sailing right now. They do sail right over the wreck and say, below us 2.5 miles is the wreck of the Titanic.
Is the wreck.
That's going to be chilling.
That's chilling. Yeah, that's chilling. And I honestly believe that there's nothing like to it, like similar to going to space. Like if you have the ability to actually get in a rocket ship and shoot up into space, even like how William Shatner did, where he just kind of went up,
nanosecond,
did like a couple floating and then came down. Like your whole life experience, I believe, changes. So I still believe that would just the same thing, but going down and looking through a peephole, and there's the actual Titanic in front of you. And the fact that Cameron had he might hold the record or one of the records for like the most times anyone's ever gone down to see that thing.
When he was making the film, he'd been down 9 times because he had the book. He had the Ken Marshall book with all the illustrations. He showed it to me. It's been down to the wreck 9 times. And there it was in his hands. He was showing it to me.
Like,
and he's been down that now. And the Mariana Trench, he's fascinated by. I think he's more fascinated by that stuff than making even avatars anymore. Because he's, you know, it's not just the Titanic, it's the whole, and there's this thing that, you know, under the ocean is far, we have more space exploration than we have deep sea exploration. You know, the creatures. Talking about favorite movies, my favorite James Cameron film is The Abyss.
Oh, really?
That gets me every time. And look, it's a precursor to Titanic. The idea that there's this world and Avatar. It's like Titanic and Avatar had a baby. He was experimenting. He was trying it out. He was looking at what life under the ocean would be like. And oh, it's so clever. My favorite bit is like, you know, Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio and Ed
Harris.
Thank you. Getting a divorce, but they're shoved onto this ship together. Yep. And he's so mad at her, and he takes off his wedding ring and he throws it in one of those chemical toilets, you know, with the blue stained water in it. And then just at the last minute, as he's about to flush it, he changes his mind and he reaches in and he grabs the wedding ring, and I think he puts it back on again. But he goes through the rest of the film with a blue hand.
Yeah.
Just and all the you know the doors coming down, you know, locking because the compartments are filling up.
Yep. No, Cameron's my favorite filmmaker of all time, and I love how he's similar to Kubrick, where he's quality over quantity kind of thing.
Yes.
You know, you look at his filmography, the guy has, like, prior to Avatar 2, I think he had like 8-7 films. You know,
he takes his time.
Yeah.
And I worked out, like, I just turned 60, right? And I've made my second feature film because I started late because I didn't think I could be a director. I was stuck with acting, and I liked it well enough, but I really love directing. He made Titanic when he was like 42.
Yeah. Yep. It's wild.
And he'd made Aliens, and he'd made The Abyss, and he'd made Piranha 2, The Spawning.
And of course, let's not forget Terminator.
Oh, and Terminator.
Yep.
So,
insane.
I think it's time for me to stop talking, don't you?
Yeah. We'll absolutely wrap this up.
Just because the sun is going down, and my lovely partner Drew is making dinner tonight.
He's like, hello.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not at all. But at the same time, I said
Yeah, no, I get it.
he's still stringing his lights. These are little fairy lights, but he's doing those. I call them festoon lights that are going all the way around the gulch here, and there's miles and miles of them. And he keeps going, I think I need another box of lights. So he's stringing the lights. It's going to be very pretty. Yeah.
All right. I think I have like 3 more. So can we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's wind it down properly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll rapid fire these things. This one I meant to do at the top because it's more of a personal thing. It's not like Titanic related or anything. But do you prefer living in the UK or the US?
Oh, well, it's hard to answer that without getting into the political situation.
Okay.
I lived here for 17 years and then went back in 2006 because I hadn't really lived in London and I really wanted to experience London. I had been living in Los Angeles for 10 years. I was burnt out. So I made a choice to go back to London. And then I was in London and I was acting a bit, as you know, in the soap opera and some theatre. And then I started directing and I loved doing that. And I was, it was all sort of trotting along. And then a man I knew in Seattle, the man I'm with now, in 1992, just before lockdown, Christmas 2019, New Year 2020, he flew to London to come and get me. And he's literally called me from Heathrow Airport going, I'm here. Where are you? And I was like, oh, gosh, what's going on? And we got together. And the reason I came back to the US was because they were closing the borders. And luckily, I am a US citizen. And on the very last day, March 20th, 2020, I will never forget, I packed in 30 minutes, got in a taxi, got on a plane, and got here to Washington, and I've been here ever since. So I chose to come back, but in a split second. And I never thought I would go from London, double-decker buses, taxis, Piccadilly Circus, to 6 acres of wilderness where we're building a house.
Wow.
But I love it. Everyone was in lockdown. We were literally isolated, me, him, and 2 pugs. That was, we didn't have to, obviously you go to the supermarket and we'd wear a mask, but my dear friends in London who were literally trapped in their flats and houses, we were very, very lucky to have this to be trapped in. So now that I'm living back in America and I'm not in Los Angeles, but I'm very close to Seattle, which is a fantastic city. I have to say that right now, where I am is where I prefer because I'm with him.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. This is a fun one. Let's rewrite history. You can be cast as any character in James Cameron's Titanic. Which character are you choosing? If you want to choose a different character.
Who would I choose? Well, now it would have to be age appropriate. I think I'd like to play Ruth. I think Rose's mum is a great character. And you enjoy this sort of ruthless existence, do you?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm now butchering the line, but I'd love to do all that camp. She does a lot of eyebrow acting. Does Frances in that? I think that would be that. I know. I have her diary. She wrote a diary for me. So yeah, I'll have to negotiate a do-over as Ruth Bucator.
Love it. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up here. This is a beautiful place to wrap it up. 1 or 2 things we don't know about Alexandra Boyd.
All right, you'll have to Google this because the trailer is all that exists. I still think on YouTube. But I played Bryan Cranston's wife in a silly little comedy about 20 years ago. It's called The Big Thing. And we were this married couple. I've had lots of husbands over the years and boyfriends, character boyfriends. But his is the best because his character has a foot fetish and he literally sucks my toes.
Bryan Cranston sucks your toes.
Yes.
Wow.
And now every time I see him, I am the toe sucking lady. And it always pops up, it'll be a Q&A after a movie he's been in and he's there, or he was at the National Theatre in London in Network, and was incredible in it. And then I'm sort of going around the opening night party, and his wife and daughter are there. The toe sucking lady, Alexandra. Hello, how are you doing? So that was a peak part of my career.
Oh wow.
One
I
or
love
two
that.
things. Something else. Well, I think people are interested in sort of, name dropping maybe, but I started in 1987. I started a theatre company with Jude Law's mum and dad. And we went to the Edinburgh Festival, and he wasn't Jude Law then. He was like 14 or 15. So I've known Jude for a very long time. And in fact, we did a tour of Italy with the theatre company, and I played Eliza Doolittle in Pygmalion, and he played Freddie Eynsford Hill. So he was my boyfriend for a second there as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I have brushed the famous. I have more than brushed the famous. I've snogged the famous on more than vacation.
And you've walked through Leo's farts.
Yes, exactly. His fart sounds, and said, haven't seen anything like that before. Yeah.
Gilbert Grape? You did Gilbert Grape
He did
5 years ago?
Yeah. Well, look at him now. So
incredible. All right, well, let's just see a couple of these comments, and then we are gonna get the heck out of here. It's
starting to get dark. The night is closing in the forest.
This has been a lot of fun.
We've had a great time.
Let's see here. Oh, I think they're still going on about the time machine or the time travel. Wrong ship.
Turn to the left.
Yep.
Hard to port.
Let's see here. Not my favorite Christmas episode. I'm trying to find one that, because they're having conversations with each other in here, so you have to kind of sift through. Okay, here we go. Amateur says, dude, I would love that Alexandra directing Kate.
Thank you. I would love to direct her. I think we'd have a great time as well.
Eat, drink, and be Titanic.
Yes, Judy.
Don't suppose Alexandra still has her monologue from the audition.
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. I do. It's all in my diary. Yeah.
There you go.
In fact, the opening sequence in the documentary is me reading the final paragraph of that audition. That's what that is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. My mom got the Titanic VHS in '98 and watched it hundreds of times. To this day, it's one of my most watched films. I haven't seen it for nearly 20 years since I moved out of her house in 2003. Should I watch it tonight?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What's the thing open?
Yes, and then rent Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, and it'll all make sense.
Yes, Laren, if anybody should watch it, it's you. Please click the link. Like she said, it's $3. How long is it going to be available to rent?
Well, we've said like 6 weeks total, and we're about halfway through.
And then after that, are we going to get
the fans? Yeah, we want the fans to word of mouth and watch it and tell your friends and tell them to rent it, because and then we'll go to the streamer. It's being suggested that people would like a DVD for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
DVD, and as I said, I haven't even started, but I would like to publish our diaries, the actors that are in the documentary, because there's, there is so much more. They'll need to be edited and sort of made readable, because that was the other thing. We wrote them and then forgot about them. Nobody went back and rewrote, or so that would take a little bit of work. But that's one of my jobs this summer is to put that together and ask people to.
Awesome.
If they were like,
wow, you and Heisenberg from Breaking Bad.
Yes, I know. It's a very, very. I hope the whole film isn't out there, because it's very silly. You get enough of the silliness from the trailer. The big thing with just put Bryan Cranston, big thing, YouTube, and it'll come up.
There it is. Apparently it's very interesting. Odd, but interesting.
There you go. See, yeah.
And then what? Jude Law.
Oh, yes.
You were with Jude Law. When I think of Jude Law, I think of Lemony Snicket, how he played Lemony Snicket.
Yeah.
In the Jim Carrey film.
Yeah.
That's my when instantly someone says Jude Law, I go to him as Lemony Snicket.
Oh, not the Talented Mr. Ripley. That was sort of his breakout.
I haven't seen that. No, I haven't seen that movie. That's Matt Damon, right?
Yeah.
I I need to get on that one.
And now he's playing old men. He was the youthful Adonis, and now he's playing dads and not quite granddads. I'm grandma. He's granddads. No, dads, still dads.
No, like the more I think about it, the more I realize how slim my Jude Law filmography watching is. Like
Well,
I've maybe
yes,
seen.
but look at the demo. He's not you're not his audience.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Lemony Snicket. Woo!
But you are a Bryan Cranston audience. I bet you probably loved Breaking Bad.
I couldn't get through season 1. No.
Well, there you go. See, it's horses for courses, and what
1.
it just gets you. It'll grab you or it won't. It'll grab you or it won't.
Here's another person who would buy a DVD. I'm a physical media guy. Thanks so much for being here, Alexandra. You and all the guests tonight were wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I'm sure we'll do a few DVDs.
Perfect. Yeah, even just a limited run. I mean,
yeah. And what I will do is, going back to Titanic Con, I'll bring some with me. Good night. I'll bring some with me, and people can buy them and get them signed by me and other cast members of the documentary, because I think Linda Kearns is going. There's a number of us, and I've put them in touch with other people that they maybe wouldn't have had a way to connect to them because I have their emails. So.
To seriously wrap up is the question of, because you're talking about this TitanicCon and people coming from the cast, and obviously there's no chance, I would assume there's no chance Leo or Kate are going to be there. Now, yes. From your opinion, from your viewpoint, Kate, I don't know so much, but it seems like anytime someone asks Leo about Titanic, it's almost like he rolls his eyes, kind of thing. It's almost like, can we not talk about Titanic, please?
Like, I can't speak for him, but he does keep a distance for sure.
From Titanic.
He does keep a distance. He wasn't at any of the celebrations or.
But like, why do you think that is? Like, just from your understanding of the business, do you think he wants to move on from it?
I don't think he's interested in any of that stuff for any of it.
Okay.
I think he just likes to go in and do his job and go on to the next thing. I don't think he buys into all of that stuff, or he'll do junkets and he'll do press because that's now part of your contract you have to fulfill.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it concerns him in that way. In the way we all think, oh, well, you're an actor and you love the limelight and you love being asked endless questions about your work and your process, and and I just think he just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. It's not because it's Titanic. He's just not that kind of actor, that kind of person.
And he has more focus on the environmental issues. And
yeah, and when you have that much money, you can do whatever you like.
Yep.
You can do whatever you like.
Well, Leo, you're never going to watch this, but if you do watch it, big fan of yours.
Oh, yeah. You never know. The thing is, it's all out there now.
Yeah,
all
right.
Of us is out there all the time. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if he was in the chat room and he was like typing, this is Leo, we wouldn't believe him.
No, you're like, yeah, sure you are. Yeah.
But Alexandra, just hang around. We're going to do a formal goodbye.
Okay.
But I'm going to end the stream now. So thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Thank you. Yes.
And if you're watching on the replay, because this will be on the channel permanently, so you can watch this whenever you want, comment down below. Let us know anything. If you watch the film, Ship of Dreams, what did you think about it? Just anything. And get in touch with Alexandra. I'll put for some reason, I kind of skipped it, but I assume that your website connected all your Instagram and Twitter and everything.
Yeah, all of that. Yes.
Okay.
It's at Ship of Dreams Film. I'm First Class Woman because my other one got taken away. Sometimes your Instagram just disappears for no good reason. You can't get it back. So I'm FSTCLSSWMN. It's a contraction of First Class Woman.
Yes, I love
it. And so there's that, and Ship of Dreams Film, because we can't put the whole title out there. If you Google Ship of Dreams Film now, and Titanic Talk is the podcast.
Yes.
But if you go to the website, shipofdreamsfilm.com, there's a big fat button there that says watch, and it will take you straight to the film. For your $3, you can enjoy some storytelling.
Do it. It's such a good 90-minute viewing experience. Like it really is. It's a very it's a love letter to to it all. So I had a great time watching it, and I had a lovely time having you on tonight. And I hope you didn't mind all the. Did you hear the static?
No, it was so charming. I'm completely charmed by it. Thank you so much, Eddie. You're just a very, a lovely. It's been a fantastic experience. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. We're doing a live stream tomorrow, but we'll see you tomorrow. And until then, there's one thing you have to do, and let me grab it. That is keep being fans of Titanic
Yes.
and future fans of Ship of Dreams. Have a good one, guys. Bye.